Diarmaid Ferriter, a School of History and Archives will now address you, to be followed by an address by the College President, Dr. Peter.
Thank you very much, Professor Daly, and a very, very good morning to you all. The first thing I want to do this morning, and perhaps the most important, is to congratulate you all on your very distinguished achievements. I think it's very important that you share this achievement and this celebration with your family and your friends. I have rarely seen such an extraordinary range of high-heeled boots and shoes. I don't know how you managed to walk in them. I don't know how you managed to walk down steps in them as well, but you all managed to get through it without falling. Sorry lads, but a suit is a suit. I'm not going to pretend this morning that I have words of great wisdom to offer you, but I am going to offer you words of encouragement, and I am going to urge you to embrace optimism at a very difficult time in this country's history. A few weeks ago in this university in UCD, I was involved in a conference on the political career and legacy of Sean Lamass, who was appointed Taoiseach in 1959. And that conference for me was a reminder that 50 years ago, this country also faced crisis. And it was a crisis that was overcome through a mixture of imagination, new ideas, new policies, a recognition of what was wrong with the country, and matching that recognition with a determination to do things differently. Most importantly, perhaps, there was an intellectual capacity to respond to new ideas. All of you, as graduates of this fine university, are equipped with that same capacity, that intellectual capacity to create ideas and to respond to those ideas. And you're going to need to make the most of that capacity in the coming years. I came into this university in 1989 at the end of a very, very difficult decade for Ireland. Many of us believed and were told that an American visa would be our ticket to freedom. And some of us did go to America. But we were also a generation of students who believed that we could change the country, that we could make Ireland a better place, that we could be assertive, that we could be confident, and that we could be defiant when we thought that was necessary as well. We often demanded change. We sometimes achieved that change and succeeded in that regard. Now, in that context, I would urge you to utterly reject a label that has become fashionable about the class of 2009. The idea that you are a lost generation. That phrase has become fashionable in recent times. How dare anyone refer to you as a lost generation? You are emphatically not a lost generation. As is clear from the 1950s that I've mentioned and the 1980s, recessions, downturns, economic crises are cyclical. It's inevitable that at some stage you will experience this, and some people will experience more than one of those particular cycles. Adversity is not historic. The climate into which you graduate is something that you have no control over. That does not mean that you have to be very philosophical about it or accept it. As a historian, another one of the phrases that irritates me greatly is, "We are where we are." And again, we've heard this repeatedly over the last year. What nonsense this is. This is, I think, a deliberate ploy to discourage an interrogation of what went wrong, of what mistakes were made, of why things happened in a particular way, and what we can actually learn about that. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to formulate scathing critiques of many of the individuals or the ideas or the institutions or the policies that have got us into this particular difficulty. And I hope that you, as arts graduates, will engage with that process. The degree that you have in humanities is designed to equip you to do precisely that kind of analysis and those kind of critiques. And now is not a time for you to be deferential, to just wait for another cycle. You need to lead, and you need to lead with confidence. Think of all the things that we do well in this country. Think of all the things that you collectively have been great exponents of whilst undergraduates at this university. Art, creativity, caring, friendship, social responsibility, satire, public service. These are things that you do not have to lose. These are things that you have to maintain. You have to create your own version of these. This has nothing to do with the economy. This has to do with soul and humanity, and you have those things in great quantities. Your degrees can take you anywhere. Some of you will become teachers. Some of you will become lawyers. Some of you will become broadcasters. Some of you will become journalists. Some of you will continue your studies. Some of you don't know what you want to do. Some of you will end up going abroad, and you don't have to be fearful of that. Yes, we can make parallels with the 1950s and the 1980s, but the historians here will know that those parallels can only take us so far. There has been huge economic, social and cultural change in Ireland in the last 20 years. Those changes have brought their own problems, but most of those changes have been very uplifting and have been very empowering, and they are not going to disappear overnight. What you are collectively required to do, I think, is to reimagine the country in your own way. You're an educated, well-travelled generation. You now know that free market economics does not solve all problems. You know yourself that capitalism needs to be reimagined and perhaps restructured as well. You know that you need to demand more from those who are in power, especially from those who have abused power. And we now have more information than ever on the process of that abuse and the significance of it. But what you also need is solidarity. One reason why things began to improve in Ireland in the late 1980s and the early 1990s was because in stark contrast to what was going on in the United Kingdom, where the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, arrogantly asserted that there was no such thing as society, we decided that there was such a thing as society, and that we believed in working together to improve that society, in cooperating with each other to make it better. And education was central to that. And you have all benefited from that education, and you have demonstrated how powerful and liberating it can be. So by all means be angry, but let's not become incapacitated by a collective fury. You will, if you spend time away, find encouragement and inspiration. Being Irish abroad has changed dramatically in the last 30 or 40 years, and it has changed for the better. There is a global emigrant family. There are friends of Ireland abroad in industry and in commerce, in politics and in arts. But I think national self-awareness will remain absolutely crucial whether you are here or elsewhere, as will supporting young people who have fresh ideas in the quest of trying to get this country to begin to believe in itself again. Let me quote a fellow historian, Elaine Byrne, a young Irish historian who wrote last week that throughout its history, it has always been the case in Ireland that the positivity and the passion of young Ireland is what propelled change, is what challenged the orthodoxies of an older generation. The revolution that founded this state nearly 100 years ago was overwhelmingly a revolution of the young. It's ultimately a revolution that created an Irish Republic. It's up to you to define the kind of values you want to see in that republic of yours, what those values should be and what those values will be. What I would urge you not to do is to be passive spectators whilst this process is undergoing. Now, as you celebrate this important occasion, I think that you need to make a promise to yourselves. I think you need to make a commitment to each other that you will make your mark and that you will make a contribution to making this a better country. Good night and go live.